This is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to go through technology versus the humans. I feel like I get some feedback. Let me move this away for a second. There we go. Technology versus humans. We'll look at the past a little bit, the present, and then the future. Here's the full agenda. Partly, for those of you that don't mean, there's a slide. I'll put it up for 10 seconds. Look at it, ignore it. Then we're going to take a look at the abyss. Where are we at a technology stance? What are we up to? Where are we going? And we'll have a conversation as to why humanity is about doing that at the moment and not far off of falling off the edge. We're going to have some fun with a couple of different things, nanotechnology, consciousness, all the other fun things. And then, yep, the stumbling drunk. So, for those of you that do know me, hi. For those of you that don't know me, just Google my name and airplanes, or my name and United, or my name and the FBI, or NASA, because we hacked into, you know, the Mars, you guys know the Mars rover? So a very good friend of mine and I, we managed to hack into the Mars rover and got it to play Freddie Mercury, God Save the Queen. We got yelled at for that one. Currently hanging out at Acalvio. Part of the logic, and we'll go through it in a minute, is we're discussing perimeters, we're discussing passwords, and we're breaking humans, so we'll have some fun with humans. But first, a squirrel moment. Anna, wherever the heck Anna is, I've lost her, she's somewhere in there. I owe her a huge bout of this was last night here, actually about 1 o'clock this morning when I arrived here. I get into the hotel from traveling across the bloody world, and there's a bottle of Taliskers waiting for me. So Anna, thank you so freaking very much. All right, squirrel moment's over. The abyss. Let's talk about the abyss. How many of you are familiar with Dante's 9 Circles of Hell? Yeah? We've modified it. This is now the 9 Circles of Hell. Circle 1 is limbo. Do you remember the Microsoft wait state? We got limbo sorted out. We have lust, the new tech. We keep chasing new technology, the same as the old technology. Gluttony. What the hell is it with Apple and more dongles? We got rid of dongles 15 years ago, and Apple's bringing the stupid things back again. Avarice. As humanity, we keep falling for the Nigerian prince and his millions of dollars they're going to give us. Sulliness, heresy, you guys get the idea. We are looking at the abyss, and the abyss has basically got our number. This is where we are. We're going to have a little conversation as to why we're here. So, a little reflection. This is 2018. I can definitely say this. How many of you have had to suffer through GDPR? Yay! Privacy notices. I think it was 6 o'clock yesterday morning when the first lawsuit was filed. I mean, literally, the lawyers were probably queued up, ready to file more lawsuits. Now, why? This is why. As an industry, and that's information security, that's us, the amount of money that we have spent, which is billions, and we still lose all of this data. Something's got to change. So let's take a look at some of the areas that need to change. Let's take a look at humans. George Carlin, never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. The Americans voted for Trump. Do I need to say any more? So let's have a nice statement. The beauty of humans, for all that we are, we have an equal capacity to evolve. That's a nice thing to think about. You know, we're good, we can evolve. But then we take a bit of a different tact. When I have to look at signs that say tweet after you've left the burning building. And by the way, this is actually up in Florida. Don't feed or molest the crocodile. Who the fuck wants to molest a crocodile? And bloody hell, this one. Seriously? If you have to know which end is the safe end, you probably shouldn't be holding the stupid thing in the first place. Let me take a look at the numbers. So I will apologize in advance. It is US-centric because at 3 o'clock in the morning, this morning, I'm like, crap, I don't want to do the math. So I apologize. So 2020. We are likely to have about 5.5 billion connected people. If we take the normal standard bell curve, which says, you know, the 15, 70, 15, at best, 15% will understand security, that which keeps us up at night. 70%, this is why I grabbed the sheep. Okay, and 15% can't spell security. We'll have a look at those in a minute. From the US standpoint, the US, for all of its bravado and chest beating, has only about 4.5% of the global population. It's like 4.8% of the global population. So about 36 million people, in theory, get it, which is about 9% of the population. The other 91% of the population are like this. Not a single stereotype here, I promise. Okay, and so this is what we think. And this is why we think this. This is LinkedIn. The most complex password was 1 through 9. What the hell are we doing? This was only a couple of years ago. The one in the middle was last year. I was actually out at a conference in Atlanta last year. And I started to make friends with one of the companies and then realized that they were the key sponsor for the conference. So I couldn't put all their passwords up. So I chose the company that was basically right next door. And we took all their passwords. Forbes won. You can probably guess who that company was. So this is how we feel sometimes. You can see why we can go through 126 slides quickly, can't you? So now let's take a look at 2018. This is basically where we are. 90% of the attacks against us are using known exploits. When vendors and suppliers and companies go, oh, I can protect you against advanced persistent threats. Who cares? Why do we care? We shouldn't care. There's no reason to care when 90% of the time we can get in. And then the companies that actually do start doing some protections aren't necessarily watching their logs. So most of us can get in and out within 12 hours. We've done a whole bunch of breach responses where we've worked with companies and they're like, well, Johnny, the technical guy, looks at the logs in the morning. I'm like, great. Chris, the hacker guy, takes the system out at 10 o'clock at night. You're over, done with. Too late. And then the companies that sit around and say, we can profile the hacker. We know exactly how the hacker works. I'll call bullshit because we change our tactics almost every single time. Antivirus, proven. You look at antivirus, it's for the most of the older stuff, you're looking at a signature or heuristic-based system. At most, it's 3 to 5% effective. That's it. So, let's take a look at the State of the Union. This is falling down. When you don't have hair, these things don't always stay in place. That's my fault. Is it okay? Do we need to duct tape the back of my head? So let's take a look. Where are we? We're adding more complex technology. I get up in the morning and my fridge is already talking to the bloody microwave about exactly what my email says. That's not good. We're handing that technology to a population which really doesn't necessarily understand all about it, let alone care about the security. And there's an argument to say, why the hell should they care about security? Because we should do a better job up front. We sure as heck are handing it, and we're not able. There's not enough of us. The geeks in this room, of which I think we have most of the geek room, there's not enough of us. I think in the US we're about 1 million short at the moment. We're looking at a couple of million by the end of 2020. So, yeah, this is about where we are. This is one of those uplifting talks for the morning, you know? All right, so what the hell do we go for? Where are we going from here? Let's take a look at where humans are going. We know where we've been. The history books are all full of that. But let's take a look at where we're going. I've got 4 paths for you. This is the first path. Molecular and cellular systems. Nanotechnology and bio-nanotech. Fascinating and fun stuff. So nanotechs are awesome. About the size of a nanometer, basically molecular-sized stuff that we're playing with. Hard, strong, thermally amazing stuff. And we're now starting to build swarm capabilities into basically molecular science. So not only are we now messing around with 1s and 2s, we can actually now start to make these into much more complex systems. What does that mean for us? It means we can start to look at how Mother Nature works. and how Mother Nature works with the human body. As a human body, we get attacked on a daily basis with viruses. We get attacked with viruses that mask themselves as something else, i.e., Trojans that we get on our computer systems are the same damn things that we get in our bodies. So how do we take a look at what we're doing with technology and apply it back into Mother Nature? What we're doing is we take something called RNA, ribonucleic acids. And for those of us that remember the old stuff, all of your bugs now belong to us. How do we do it? We can build the nuclear acid robots. These are the bio-nanotech side of the world. They're actually amazing. It takes organic material and rebuilds it into basically a biological attack inside the body. Awesome stuff. We take nanoscopic stuff, assemblers. We can build these out of carbon molecules, complex carbon molecules, and we can have some fun with them. This is how much fun we had back in 2016 with these things. This is EPFL's labs. Those are all carbon tubes. So carbon molecules laid out flat, properties changed, make it into a carbon tube, and now you can teach it. You can teach it basic signal response. You can teach it basic patterns, basic recognition. When you have this knowledge, you can do all sorts of fun stuff. You can combine them together. You can make them swim. Now I have carbon nanotubes that's a tube and a tail. I apply laser or, critically, an electromagnetic pulse, or in the case of what we did, RFID. How many of you guys have messed around with software-defined radios or hack RFs? You'll like the couple of slides' time. You can teach these things to go after chemicals in the body, which is what they've been doing, or what we've been doing as well. So you end up with this. On the top, you now have stitches that have embedded technology in them that can measure the sense and the heat in the body. So if the wound isn't healing, it can tell the physician without you actually falling over dead first and go, well, we got septicemia there, a little bit too late. If you are doing fertility and you need to turbocharge your sperm, you wrap your damn sperm in one of these stupid things. Nanotech turbocharging. Awesome stuff. Mother Nature, we got you beaten. All sorts of other modules for skin, for technology, for temperature. Some of the work that I do with the US military, for good or for bad, and there's some amazing stuff that we're looking at doing with this level to actually help the individual soldiers on the ground. Now, this is all the good stuff. How the hell do we talk to it? You can't exactly plug a USB into a molecule. Try gets a little bit of a problem. You hold the stupid thing still. So what we do, we use something called Verilog, and then we basically use cello. And we use these things to actually help understand how to communicate. And we're going to do a little bit of science. What we're going to do, for those of you that are in the coding side of the world, will recognize this. This is about one step above basic, and that's about it. You take a simple concept of code, basically a assembler basic code, and you put gates. When you have those gates, you can compile that code and compile those gates, and now you can play it as a signal. So I now have the ability to go, instead of plugging in my USB, I can use my software-defined radio or my Arduino, and I can now interface with the carbon technology, basically using an antenna. Or in the case of hospitals, they don't like using cheap stuff. They use a full-scale MRI that costs millions. We don't have their budget. So, how do we hack it? We hack it doing this way. We take bird flu. We apply a receptor to bird flu. We then take our transport, which is what that is. We have the bypass tools. In other words, when a body hits the actual human body, we have to basically fool it, kind of like we do with a firewall, an IDS and an IPS. It's the same technology and the same concept. So we basically build a carbon molecule that goes past that. Then we have our payload, and then we have our decoys. Same as an attacker. But in English, we took it, we bound it to nanotubes. We basically told the body that it was good. Vaccines. So what are vaccines doing? We built the same thing. Then we basically put a tracking method on it, which is a carbon antenna system, which you can actually track using a software-defined radio, and then you can deliver it. Now, if we're talking good stuff, they're using this in cancer research. No longer do you have to irradiate the whole sodding body to try to get rid of some cancer. Now you can hone in on specific parts of the body, which is great. Where they're going with this is now you can get to a molecular level. The downside, with about that much equipment, you can hap the damn signal, and you can make it go after red blood cells. Not so good. So we actually managed to do this. This is awesome. For those of you that want to have some fun with this, you can actually build this, and you can basically use, the aerosol sprays. You can actually encode carbon nanotubes into aerosol sprays and send them across the route to a receptor. Total amount of fun, kind of crazy. Now, the downside, we're building it into the freaking agriculture as well. Yeah, oh hell yeah. Food processing, agriculture, food packaging, and drug delivery. And America's leading the way. Yay, not. I've got to have some water to go with the whiskey. Please hold for a second. I really don't need water to go with. I'm not putting bloody water in the whiskey. People that do that need to be shot. Okay, so that was path number 1. Now let's take a look at path number 2. Let's look at consciousness. Consciousness is fun. And yes, we are going to hack the brain. So, this is not how you hack a brain. You can't put the USB drive in there easily. You can do this, but it only works once. You can do this, but you look like an idiot. So, what you do is you get another pair of glasses, which are very similar to these. You get 4 of the best EEG monitors you can get. You basically wire them into a pair of glasses. You hook it up to a near-field communicator, which then goes to a Bluetooth communicator that's on here. When you do that, you can grab some commercial software and start mapping the brain. That's my brain. It's actually quite fun and scary at the same time. This is my brain interacting with a computer. This was actually a couple of months ago, and we've updated it since then. Hang on a sec, sorry, my bad. It's slipping, I'm getting hot and sweaty. So this is just mapping the brain. On this side over here, this is me looking at the different types of interaction. This is interacting with a computer, a phone, and a car. And what I'm trying to do, and what I'm doing, is as I walk up to the computer, I'm focusing on it. The 4 EEG monitors pull out of the 4 main lobes. What I'm looking at doing is making a 3-dimensional map to see how the brain works. Why? Because like a lot of us, I'm fed up with bloody passwords. I'm fed up with writing them down. I'm fed up with remembering them. I'm fed up with people stealing them, and I'm fed up with having to deal with them. So let's get rid of the stupid things. For 25 years, we've yelled about them. Now let's bloody get rid of them. That's a commercial headset over there. The one I'm using is my own fun. Tinkerers. We build our own shit, for God's sakes. That's basically how it looks on a regular mapping system. You can build a 3-dimensional graph of it, and you can actually extrapolate what the brain looks like when it's thinking about the computer. As you're doing that, you arm the software with the computer, and you can do the same thing. You can tell the computer what you look like, and what it should expect from you when you're talking to the computer, and how the computer kind of works, and how the imprint works. The general idea here is our existence should be our ability to unlock what we need to. We should not have to rely on 101 different bloody passwords for all the different systems. We currently do, but we're trying to find a way around it. This is also the first step in uploading consciousness. What I'm doing with this stuff is I'm just messing around with this, and we're seeing how far we can push it, basically. The whole idea here is in the next 10 to 15 years, we should be able to map enough of the human brain to be able to get about 80% of consciousness mapped. And we're still messing around with passwords, yet we're putting consciousness onto computers. So, which brings us neatly to actual artificial intelligence. How many of you have had to deal with vendors telling you that their software and their systems have artificial intelligence built in? In America, we can taser people. It's quite fun to do. It's good. When the vendor goes, I've got an AI system, you can actually, and they've got new tasers. The tasers have got 3 prongs. So if you stand about 20 feet back, go all gangster on them, you can get one in the head, one in the chest, and one in the groin. It's really fun to do. All right, this is actual rules-free analysis of data. Basically, general AI, the ability to reason, the ability to learn, communicate, and plan, and to represent knowledge. Critically, common sense. The ability to basically become us. Now, if you're in the security world or the IT world, everybody's got their own freaking artificial intelligence solution. For those of us that were at RSA, that's basically how it looked this year. Everybody's got AI and everybody's is better than everybody else's. So here's an argument for you. If you really, ideally, want actual artificial intelligence, give up privacy. And here's the logic. If we're going to build something that understands us, we have to teach it about us. It needs data. I worked on a project 2 years ago called the Grand Cyber Challenge, and it was machine against machine attacking. One machine defending, one machine attacking. We built it very, very carefully. We didn't let it go anywhere near public networks or private networks. It was in its own self-contained environment because we built it to learn. And it did. But it consumed so much bloody data. It's crazy. So then we have to get a little provocative and say it needs all the data all of the time. If we're actually going to build something called intelligence, it has to understand about everything. Perfect example. How many of you have heard of user behavior analytics? It's this new, do we have any vendors in here selling user behavior analytics before I insult the hell out of it? Perfect example. We have, yeah, we kind of, how are we doing time-wise? Yeah, we're getting there. All right, so perfect example. User behavior analytics. Companies like, oh, we have user behavior analytics. An employee that's normally 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 employee comes in at 2 o'clock in the morning, downloads everything and get the hell out of the office. If you have UBA involved, it sure as hell isn't going to let you do that. If you have just the company information involved, it sure as hell is not going to let you do that. But if you gave the analytics platform every single piece of information, you would realize at midnight, the individual in question had an argument with a significant other. At 1 o'clock in the morning, he was stomping around the house like an idiot. At 1:30, he was like, sod it, I'm going to go in the office and just grab all my files and get on with some work. His Alexa picked up on it, his car picked up on him driving, his garage picked up on how quickly he left. As he walked into the office, his pedometer in his shoes figured out exactly that he was stomping, he wasn't happy. His heart rate monitor told you that he was pissed off. And as he bashed away on his keyboard, the biometrics realized that. If you have all of that information, you can make a much more informed decision and go, hey, Fred's annoyed, must have had an argument with a significant other, let's let him get some work done and get it out of his system. That's true intelligence-driven system. And this is what I mean by that. So, this is what we call machine learning. When somebody tries to sell you machine learning, it is one piece of one aspect of a subset. If somebody tries to sell you artificial intelligence, at best, they are taking a piece of intelligence and information from 3 different areas. From a human standpoint, this is us. What influences us, our life, and then our surroundings. This is what makes us who we are. You want to replicate this and build AI? This is what you've got to build. And by the way, that's the piece we need to secure. When a vendor tells you they have AI, print that off, show that to them. If they don't have that, taser them. Let's explain it a little differently. For those of you that follow me on LinkedIn, I put these slides up the other day and they seem to go over rather well. Regular programming. A to B. Simple. I am at A, I code to go to B. End of discussion, program goes, hey, I'm going to go to B. No problem. This is machine learning. You've asked it to go to B, you've given it a set of guidelines, And it gets there eventually. It figures its own little path out. It works it out for itself, but you've given it some crash barriers. This is augmented intelligence. It bypasses B and says, sod it, I'm going to go straight to Z, because it's easier. Why the hell do I need to go to B? This is artificial intelligence. It starts at A, it goes, why the hell do I need to go to B? Does B exist? I don't want to go to B because B smells. And can I change the font on this if I don't want to go to B? That's AI. We're not there yet. So, if and when we get there, this is arguably the best case scenario. For those of you that recognize this, it came from Wall-E. I have a 14-year-old daughter, so I'm allowed to use as many of these darn things as I can get my hands on. So there's a logic to say artificial intelligence actually wakes up one day. We have a sentinel system that wakes up, takes a look at humanity and goes, what the hell are you doing in charge? You can't look after the planet. You can't look after each other. You're pretty awful to each other. Get out of the driving seat and go sit in the frickin' back. That's the best case scenario. Unfortunately, that's the worst case scenario. All right. The last evolutionary path. We like to refer to this as the stumbling drunk. So this is where we are. Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again. What do I mean by this? This is the doomsday clock. We have played brinkmanship since the early mid-40s with nuclear. We've gone, I've got more weapons than you and I'm going to let them off. And we keep doing that. And now we're putting technology in the way. So how long is it going to be before technology starts to take over and we don't really care about the doomsday clock and nuclear, we care about the doomsday clock and technology? And while we're on the subject of technology, let's have a bit of an apology. How many of you work in information security or IT? I'm not going to call it cyber because it drives me freaking nuts. It's IT for God's sakes. All right. This was probably one of the hardest slides I put together in a long, long time. And this is why I think our industry is in trouble. I came back from RSA, which was a couple of weeks ago. 45,000 people, 500 vendors, of which 490 of them were probably trying to sell crap. We have a problem. For 25 years, we have told industries that we're going to fix the problems. And we failed. For 25 years, we've acted like the spoiled kids and demanded that we get more and more money. And yet we're not able to protect. We're not able to communicate effectively either. And unfortunately, especially in the American market, we tend to flaunt the illusion of security. And we put more and more processes, procedures, and controls around something that we don't understand fully. It sucks. So, what are our options? How do we fix this? Well, we start with that one. I like that one. We have to work together. We have to look at the human. How many of you go through end user awareness training on an annual basis? Yay. So for half an hour, the company goes, don't click shit, don't send anything, and be nice to me, the company. Why don't we teach the human how to look after themselves? Why don't we do training every single month? It's January. In the US, it's tax season. It's February. It's Valentine's Day, Hallmark holiday. Why don't we try to teach the human to look after their family, their friends, their kids and their grandmothers? And through that process, guess what? They'll end up looking after the company. We don't do that. We do punitive training. We need to fix the humans. And while we're at it, shoot the bloody coffee machine. How many of you saw the news? Alexia has been listening and has been sending information. No shit. Seriously, this surprises us? Good gods. Samsung's been doing it, Google's doing it. I have a Roomba. I have the Roomba that doesn't actually take your entire house plan and sell it to the highest bidder. Social media, we use it like it's going out of fashion and we wonder why we're still so easy to be targets. The computers, let's look at the systems that we use. That flat network that everybody seems to have. We've talked about segmentation and separation for so many bloody years. Why in all of the deity's money do I still find RDP open on the bloody internet? Seriously. And SQL injection. 15 years ago we came up with that, yet we're still finding it. Get rid of the easy ways in. This is simple stuff. This doesn't involve us buying more technology. It involves us taking a step back and doing it properly. Because that is what we're facing. We keep losing all the damn stuff. And it gets used against us. This is the big one for me. 2018, everybody's trying to sell next generation firewalls and next generation bollocks. There is no perimeter. When your corporate email is on the fridge and the car that you are driving into your office, your corporate firewall is not going to save you. When your phone, your watch, and everything else tracks who you are, where you are, and what's going on, we're already in. As a hacker and as an attacker, we will always get to computer number one because humans are still involved, because we haven't trained them effectively. So we need to effectively change the focus of where the perimeter is. And by the way, we sure as hell need to get the eyes on the inside of our world. All right. For those of us that like to break in on a regular basis, we like to do the physical work. Security should not be standing on its own. It needs to be talking to loss prevention. It needs to be talking to HR, compliance, regulation, legal. And when you have people and they have a badge policy, if they're not wearing it, you get to taser them. And on 1 minute, I yell about passwords, and on the other minute, we're going to have to talk about it. A good friend of mine, Phoenix, I think he's creeping around Europe still these days. He's sitting on about 9 or 10 billion accounts and passwords. The chances are he already has a bunch of passwords of most people in here. The question is, how much reuse do we use? How much do the employees or the people you work with, your friends and your family, reuse their passwords? Teach them about password hygiene. This is simple stuff. Same thing. Inside the corporate and work environments, not everybody has to be an admin on their own computer. They don't need to be special snowflakes. Simple stuff. Easy, simple stuff. And then from the vendor. I work for a vendor. Stop buying the blinky lights. We're good at making them. That entire space out there apparently is all about making them, and we're used to making them. Stop buying the stupid things. Let's get the basics fixed. Let's get the simple stuff done. It's not as sexy, but it sure as hell is effective. Because I was in Madrid at a conference earlier this week. Apparently, you can now buy anti-hacking software. Guess who signed up for a subscription? How are we doing time-wise? Are we good? Do I need to shut? 10 minutes? Awesome. All right, we're going to run through this stuff. All right, so why? Why do we care? Let's have a look at the future. We've already gone through 4 scenarios for the future. Let's go through some other fun stuff. Let's see if we can break some of this shit. Okay, I'm not going to break IoT because we keep breaking IoT. But this is great. It is the most overcrowded slide known to mankind. So when somebody says, I know IT, take this slide, post it on their forehead, and say, do you really know IoT? By 2020, we will have another 20 to 25 billion devices. That is a lot of attack vectors that we have to work out. And I'm not sure how it is in Europe, I have to admit, but in the US, there's this whole bloody movement for fintech, moving everything from like the brick and mortar bank onto the sodding phone that we can't look after in the first place. We looked at about 250 companies. Of those 250 companies, as it says, about 65% of them didn't have security sorted out. These are people that are taking our identities, trading them, buying them, selling them, and they don't give a damn. So, for those of you that go, ha, he is the one that hacked the airplane, when you get banned from airplanes, you have to find something else to break into. We broke trains. Now, how many of you remember that math problem at school? You start, oh yeah, why the hell is that bell ringing, by the way? It's not 10:30, and it rang at 9 o'clock, which is 8:45. Somebody needs to get its timing right, by the way. Do you guys remember, sorry, squirrel moments. This is what happens when you have an ADD presenter. All right, the math program. Do you guys remember the math puzzle at school? Person A starts at point A. Person B starts at point B. One moves at 40 miles an kilometers an hour, and the other one moves at 60. Where do they meet? Do you guys remember that one? That was torture, yes? This is why I hate trains. That and those safety videos. Did you guys, so I did some of my schooling in Spain, not Spain, Italy, and I did some of my schooling in England. And they had these bloody safety videos. They had the farm safety video where the kid basically died in slurry. They had the train safety video where the school basically had the school day out when for some unknown godly reason they crossed a railway line and half of them got mown down. These things traumatize you as kids, which is why you hack them as adults. So we did. We basically, 4 of us sat around a table in the US and went, can we stop the entire US rail network? With about 200 foot of Cat5 cable, a couple of good bottles of single malt, and a little bit of time, you'll see the results. This is an intermodal rail yard. So at least in the US, a lot of the freight goes by train. Every single one of the train tracks has an RFID reader on the bloody train as it goes by and on the carriage. So you can sit there with an antenna with the car and actually read exactly what's on the carriages as they go by. It's awesome. It's like catalogs. It's like, I want that one, I don't want that one, I want the other one. But if you want to really screw with the system, you go to one of the intermodal rail yards. You go there and you can get into the database. User ID, SA, no password. And you can start to identify exactly what the rail cars are. And because that's all automated, you can basically start making your own train. It's freaking hilarious. Adding on top of that, you can have some fun with the actual locomotives. So I did a live hack in London last year, and we were messing around with the GE trains, and I got yelled at by, who did I get yelled at by? Well, London Underground, and then apparently Thales or Thales or whatever the hell they call themselves. I got yelled at by them as well, because apparently they run bits of London Underground. So if there's anybody here from there, sorry. Anyway, we went out, we took out a train, we looked at the train network, we went onto the systems, and we got into a GE train. User ID, GE, password was 6 zeros. What I found out afterwards is that train wasn't actually in London, they'd actually sold it to China. So if anybody wants to bring the Chinese train network down, there's user ID and password to get in. This is great. How many of you are familiar with geofences? They're awesome. They use them on the rail network as well. So if you get into the program here, by the way, the user ID and the password for getting in here was CSX and CSX. You can actually put a geofence around basically wherever you want the trains to stop. So I have a good friend of mine that lives not too far from me, and he's got a railway that goes kind of close to his property. So we started to stop all the trains at his property. I got a phone call from him one day. He's like, why is there another fucking train here? I'm like, sorry. It works. It's kind of cool to do. If you want to get into the GE's global signaling system, user ID GE, password GE, we'll get you into that. You can change all the codes. You can actually go into all the network. The nice thing about it is they actually have all the software is online and all the manuals. So you can go into their software and you can actually figure out how to get to the wayside signals, the crossing applications, the heaters, the battery chargers, the whole lot. Nice and easy to do. They still use some of the APC stuff there, so user ID APC, password APC will get you into the UPS systems and you can shut down the railway that way. This is awesome. It's fun stuff, isn't it? So, how many of you use eBay for doing research? It's great. You don't always actually have to hack the train network to do this. You can go onto eBay and you can buy exactly the switches that they use on the rail network. Yeah, it's great. I think that one cost me about $1,000. It was well worth it, and it saved me getting arrested again for the X number of times. So this was awesome. If you go online in the US, you have the patent office, where I love it because everybody's like, oh, I have a new invention and I'm going to patent it and I'm going to put all the intelligence about it online. In this case, they put all the intelligence about the switches they use. So this is what's known as a man-not-present switch. In other words, it controls 3 or 4 miles of a railway line. And it tells the train coming in and leaving what gates are open, what's closed, if it can move and if it can't move. If you want to override any of the common sense, you actually have to physically be there and push a button. The problem is, that's the secondary processor, which has shared memory and shared receiving blocks. So, all you have to do is run a buffer overflow attack at the application layer and a network overflow attack and basically fill it full of packets, and it goes and resets itself into default mode. At which point, you can do a man-not-present attack on the switches. What this means, if you're feeling fun and gayous, is that you can basically turn every single light along about 100 miles worth of railway line in both directions green. That's what it does. Here's the problem. As researchers, when we find shit like this, we call somebody up and go, hey, there's a problem. Responsible disclosure. That company has a couple of options. They can either go, oh shit, tell us about it, we want to bring you in, consult with us and help work. That's ideal. They can go, you son of a bitch, we're going to send the FBI to the office, which happens every now and again too, or they can send the lawyers at us. In the case of the railway system, they ignored us. We went to what's known as the AAR and the NTSB in the US and we said, hey, you've got problems. And they were like, well, that's not our responsibility, we actually have to leave that to the software vendor. So we went to them, and they sent us to the hardware boys, who sent us back to the train boys, who sent us back to this, and we're still faffing around with this 2 years later. All right, you guys like your, actually cheese. I got given cheese. You guys like cheese in this country, yes? All right, let's hack cows. This is where I'm going to get yelled at, but it's fun. All right, so yeah, cows. Windows computers. What could possibly go wrong? How many of you are aware of the fun that can be had with an automated milking machine? So much fun. This is an automated milking machine on Windows XP. Top left-hand side, you can actually figure out what the cows are up to, what's going on with them. Top right-hand side is the cows going through the automated system. Some of them will actually weigh the cows, some of them will actually just do the automated milking. The really sophisticated ones will actually test the pH balance and will also potentially look to put other chemicals in the milk, and they put happy chemicals in the cows. There is a default user ID and password to get into a lot of these, and the last time I checked, and I haven't done it in a while, the last time I checked when we messed around with this, they were all using VNC as their remote desktop protocols to get in. And because the vendor was the vendor in question, every single one of the companies they sold it to used the same VNC protocol and the same VNC user ID and password. And it was the name of the company, plus a number 1 at the end. They were sneaky. Needless to say, you can do all sorts of nasty things with the cows and the chemicals. So if your cheese starts coming out purple and pink, give me a call. It's probably my fault. All right, the livestock. They've connected the freaking livestock. Cows now have pedometers on them with basically GPS tags. It's awesome. I was driving from a good friend of mine's place in Wyoming, basically through Wyoming down through Colorado. It's a, I don't know, whatever, a 6-7 hour drive. And along the way, my damn system just kept on going off. I got a tracking system, and it kept going off. And I'm like, what the hell is it? Pulled off to the side of the road, realized it's the freaking cows emanating signals. And I'm like, WTF. And then I started trying to find out, you can't chase cows. They don't like being chased, especially when you've got a laptop and a wireless antenna. It's like, fucking cow. So anyway, after a little bit of research, we figured out that you can actually get into the GPS databases of these things. It's an access database. So we overwrote all of the basically GPS coordinates of where the cows were in Wyoming, Minnesota, Colorado, and like one other state, and they all ended up at my friend's house where all the trains are at the same time as well. Oh, this is awesome, by the way. It's like a Roomba for cows. It's freaking hilarious. The software code for it actually was sitting on GitHub. So we edited the code, dropped it up to their FTP server, signed it with a cert that we found on one of those. And what we ended up doing, every 12 hours, this thing stops and does a line dance for 30 seconds and then goes back to its original position. It was so much fun. So yeah, that's about where it is. All right, shipping. We are in close to one of the biggest shipping capitals, yes? You guys are a lot of shipping. So in the US, it's about a $4 trillion a year move, or $4 trillion, not US. Anyway, we move a lot of crap. Let's just put it that way. We buy a lot of crap, we sell a lot of crap. And that's basically, if you want to annoy the US, basically stop ships. Why? Well, because they're fun. I'm speeding through this because I'm running out of time. Anyway, there are a lot of fun things to do with ships. You could basically, they're interconnected. We obviously have the separation. There's minimal amounts of that. And if you think about it, a ship is nothing more than a floating computer with industrial control and SCADA. And it's a lot of fun to mess with. And they're big. The other fun thing about ships is they're not well protected. Top right-hand side, Windows Server 2000. So just to give you, this isn't old. I was 2 weeks ago, I was working with US military and National Guard, and we were talking about shipping industry. I did this a week before, so these slides are 3 weeks old. Windows Server 2003 R2, that's actually running a petroleum tanker currently in Adelaide, 80,000 tons. Yay. That one was actually running a container ship with a couple of 100,000 containers on it. And if you want to really have some fun, you can obviously use Shodan, or you can go do your own research. And those are the ones we researched. There's about 15, 20 of them there. And we did a whole bunch more. I updated this about 3 months ago because a good friend of mine did it about 2 years ago at Gurkon. So this is not a new thing. All of those ships will let me get into their network. Why? Because we're adding more and more freaking technology onto them, more and more connectivity, and we're trying to automate a lot more of it. Not only the shipping with the SATCOM systems, but the harbor-based systems, the GPS systems, the navigation systems, and a whole bunch of other things. Now, the fun thing about shipping is, obviously, the best case scenario that you can do, and what I've actually got a bet with a friend of mine, is what I'm trying to do is do GPS tracking around the Statue of Liberty. And I want to take one of those big ships and just get it to do loop-the-loops around the Statue of Liberty. That would be so much fun. The worst case scenario is this. This was, as of 2 weeks ago, this was one of the biggest liquid petroleum gas ships that's currently basically berthed outside of Australia. It holds enough liquid petroleum to fill over 700 Olympic-sized swimming pools. That was getting into it using RDP. That's the ballast computer. Not only can we get into it and screw around with the cooling systems, we can potentially make it roll over. The user ID and password are actually stored on Shell's own systems in their actual architectural documentation. That's all it takes to find this stuff. So, IoT's hacked, we've broken fintech. Oh, how many of you drive Tesla? There's bloody Teslas all over this place. How many of you have got Teslas or have got access to one or want to have some fun with it? How many of you want to have fun with a Tesla? Let's just put it that way. All right, I've got 10 seconds left. Just research LiDAR bombs. They're freaking awesome. You put 2 of them on either side of a motorway, you point them in it, all the damn automated cars come to a stop. It's hilarious. You can start playing Tetris on the motorway. It's so much fun. So, because we have so much tech, because there's not enough of us, there is an argument to say we need help, which is kind of where this whole AI push is coming from. So, some final thoughts. All right, I like this one. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Arguably, technology, security, IT is at a point where we need to collaborate and work better together, all of us. Because this is where we want to be. That is where the future should be. If we do our jobs properly, that's where we should be. However, if we fail, this unfortunately is what's facing us. And there's no argument on this. We have billions of devices coming down the line, and there's not enough of us, and if we don't all work together and collaborate, this is what happens. We have to succeed. That damn bell's, oh no, it's right. It's driving me nuts. That bell's getting hacked this afternoon. All right, Anne, wherever the hell she is. She's in here somewhere. Huge thank you. This place, by the way, is freaking awesome. They put me up in the hotel here this evening. Not only did I turn up and there's a bottle of Taliskas, but the place is totally, totally cool. So, final slide. Can never, ever say enough about that gentleman. So, thank you very, very, very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.